Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that's going to feel like cracking open a hidden treasure chest, especially if you're a Capricorn or you've got one in your life. We're talking about the 10 unspoken rules every Capricorn lives by but never admits. Now, if you know a Capricorn, those folks born between December 22nd and January 19th, ruled by Saturn, the planet of structure and responsibility, you might think of them as the serious, hardworking, get-things-done type. But there's so much more going on beneath the surface, and I'm so excited to peel back those layers with you. These are the rules they live by, the ones they'll never say out loud, but if you watch closely, you'll see them in action every single day. So let's get into it. I promise you'll be hooked till the very end, whether you're a Capricorn nodding along or someone who's just curious about what makes them tick. Grab a snack, settle in, and let's talk about the secret world of Capricorns. First, let's set the stage. Capricorns are earth signs, grounded, practical, and all about building something that lasts, whether it's a career, a family, or a legacy. They're the ones who show up early, plan ahead, and always seem to have their life together, even when things are falling apart. But what drives that? It's not just ambition. Though they've got plenty of that, it's a set of unspoken rules, almost like an internal code they follow, shaped by their need for stability, their loyalty, and a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need a spotlight. I've known a few Capricorns in my life, like my friend Mark, who's always the rock in our group. And watching them, I've noticed these patterns they'd never admit to, but they live by them like gospel. So let's break them down, one by one, and see if you recognize these in the Capricorns you know, or maybe even in yourself. Rule number 1, Capricorns always have a plan B, and probably a plan C, D, and E too. They'll never tell you this because they don't want to seem paranoid or like they're overthinking things, but trust me, they've thought through every possible outcome. If they're working on a project, they've already mapped out what happens if it fails, who they'll call, and how they'll pivot. My friend Mark, for instance, once planned a group trip for us, and while we were all just excited to go, he had a backup itinerary in case it rained, a list of emergency contacts, and even extra snacks in case we got stuck somewhere. When I asked him about it, he just shrugged and said, "I like to be prepared." But that's the thing, Capricorns don't just prepare, they over-prepare, because they hate being caught off guard. It's their way of staying in control, even when life gets messy. And it ties right into their Saturn-ruled nature of structure and discipline. Rule number 2, they'll never admit it, but Capricorns need to feel needed. They might come off as independent, sometimes even a little distant, but deep down, they thrive on being the person others rely on. They want to be the one who fixes things, who steps up when no one else will, who holds it all together. But they'll never ask for that role outright, because they don't want to seem needy or vulnerable. Instead, they'll quietly position themselves as the go-to person. Think about a Capricorn in your life. Maybe a parent, a boss, or a friend. They're probably the one who's always there when you're in a pinch, right? Like when I was stressing about a deadline, Mark didn't just offer advice, he stayed up late helping me brainstorm, even though he had his own work to do. Later, he brushed it off like it was nothing, but I could tell it meant something to him to be that support. That's a Capricorn for you. They need to feel essential, but they'll never say it out loud. Rule number 3, Capricorns don't forgive easily, even if they act like they do. They value loyalty and trust above almost everything, and if you break that, they'll remember it forever. They might not hold a grudge in an obvious way. They're not going to yell or cause a scene, but they'll quietly adjust how they deal with you. They'll put up a boundary, maybe stop sharing as much, or keep you at arm's length, all while being perfectly polite. I saw this with Mark when a mutual friend flaked on a big project they were working on together. Mark didn't say much, just nodded and said, "It's fine." But after that, he never relied on that friend again. He'd still hang out, still be friendly, but there was this invisible wall. Capricorns don't admit how deeply betrayal cuts them, because they don't want to seem weak, but they'll protect themselves by never fully letting you back in. Rule number 4, they're secretly terrified of failure, but they'll never show it. Capricorns are known for their ambition, always climbing towards some big goal, whether it's a promotion, a dream house, or just being the best at what they do. But that drive comes with a hidden fear. What if they don't make it? What if they fall short? They'll never tell you this because they don't want to seem uncertain. They've got that "I've got it all together" vibe going. But inside, they're constantly measuring themselves against their own high standards. I remember Mark telling me about a job interview he had. He spent weeks preparing, but the night before, he was pacing, muttering about how he couldn't mess it up. He got the job, but he never admitted how scared he was of failing. That fear pushes them to work harder, but it also means they're carrying a lot of pressure they don't talk about. Rule number 5. Capricorns value actions over words, and they expect you to do the same. They don't trust big promises or flowery speeches. They want to see what you do, not what you say. They'll never admit this because they don't want to seem harsh or judgmental, but they're always watching how people follow through. If you say you'll be there at 6 and you're late, they'll notice. If you promise to help and then bail, they'll file that away. Mark once told me he doesn't care about apologies. He cares about what someone does after they mess up. And you can see it in how he lives. He's not the type to gush about his feelings, but he'll show up for you every time without fail. That's how Capricorns operate. They speak through their actions, and they expect the same in return. Rule number 6. They'll never tell you, but Capricorns crave respect more than love. Don't get me wrong, they want to be loved, of course, but respect is non-negotiable. They need to feel like their hard work, their discipline, their loyalty is seen and valued. If they sense you don't respect them, maybe you dismiss their advice, or you don't take their boundaries seriously, they'll pull back fast. They won't admit how much it hurts because they don't want to seem overly sensitive, but it's a deal breaker for them. I noticed this with Mark when someone made a casual joke about his career choice, implying he was too serious. He laughed it off, but later, he told me it bugged him. He felt like they didn't respect how much he'd put into his path. For Capricorns, respect is the foundation of any relationship, even if they'll never say it out loud. Rule number 7. Capricorns don't do vulnerability well, and they'll go to great lengths to hide it. They might seem stoic, like they've always got everything under control, but that's because they're working hard to keep their softer side under wraps. They'll never admit this because they don't want to seem weak or out of control, but they feel things deeply. They just don't show it. When Mark's dog passed away, he didn't cry in front of us. He went quiet, took a day off, and when he came back, he acted like everything was fine. But I found out later he'd spent that day writing a letter to his dog, pouring out all his grief. That's a Capricorn. They'll process their emotions in private because they don't want anyone to see them as anything less than strong. Rule number 8. They'll never say it, but Capricorns are fiercely protective of their inner circle. They might not be the loudest or most expressive with their affection, but if you're one of their people, they'll go to the ends of the earth for you. They'll quietly rearrange their schedule to help you move, or they'll stay up late researching something you need, all without making a big deal out of it. They don't admit this because they don't want to seem overly attached, but their loyalty runs deep. I saw this when Mark found out a friend was struggling financially. He didn't say much, just dropped off a grocery gift card with a note that said, "Thought you might need this." He played it off like it was nothing, but that's Capricorn loyalty. They'll protect their people, no questions asked. Rule number 9. Capricorns don't compete. They dominate, but they'll never admit they're even playing the game. They're not the type to brag or show off, but they're always quietly working to be the best. They'll never tell you they're trying to outdo you because they don't want to seem petty, but they've got a competitive streak that runs deep. At work, Mark was always the first to volunteer for big projects, not because he wanted the spotlight, but because he wanted to prove he could handle it better than anyone else. When he got promoted, he acted like it was no big deal, but I knew he'd been aiming for it all along. Capricorns don't compete loudly. They just work harder, smarter, and longer until they're at the top. Rule number 10. They'll never admit it, but Capricorns hold themselves to an impossible standard. They've got this internal bar they're always trying to reach, whether it's being the best partner, the best employee, or the best friend. They don't talk about it because they don't want to seem self-absorbed, but they're their own harshest critic. If they make a mistake, they'll beat themselves up about it for days, even if no one else notices. Mark once missed a deadline by a day, something small, but he was so hard on himself, saying he should have planned better, even though his boss didn't care. That's a Capricorn. They're driven by a need to be flawless, even if it's just in their own eyes. So that's the Capricorn playbook. 10 unspoken rules they live by, from backup plans to silent ambition. What do you think? Do these rules fit the Capricorns you know? Share your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. See you next time.